Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Now a few years ago we put together a PC based on Minecraft's recommended system requirements and found that it could, as expected, run the base game easily. It even managed to produce respectable frame rates with a maxed out graphics mod. In today's one we're taking a look at the RTX version of the game and seeing how well it does with the suggested minimum specs, because it's safe to say they are a little vague when it comes to the CPU side of things. The Minecraft website simply lists an Intel i5 or equivalent with no other context, and in pairing with an RTX 20 series or Radeon 6000 series card, this sounds like there's potential for a pretty significant mismatch. Something like a quad-core i5 2400 here would certainly cause problems in most modern games, but Minecraft RTX is extremely GPU dependent, so we might be okay. For the RAM we have 8 gigs as suggested, dual channel DDR3 of course because I'm not a complete monster, and our GPU or GPUs are the RTX 2060 and RX 6500 XT. The 6500 XT being the second weakest in a possible lineup of RX 6000 cards. I decided to go with the medieval RTX map for the tests today as it's one of my favourites and it really shows off the advanced effects and lighting that we have when we enable the RT toggle. By default the game turned the fancy settings on and selected 8 chunks as the RT render distance. DLSS upscaling is available but it was off for this first test. As you can see the i5 2400 in pairing with the 8 gigs of dual channel 1333MHz RAM is more than enough for the game, and while a CPU like this may be a huge limitation in most titles today, here it's taking it easy and letting Nvidia's once lowest end ray tracing option do all the work. The performance overall is okay, better than what we'd get from some developer stated minimum specs, that's for sure. If we enable upscaling in the options then we get DLSS, which should really help out here, and it does. Remaining with the default settings, the RT render distance set to 8 chunks and the frame rate completely uncapped in the settings file, our frame rate pretty much doubled, without much of a visual impact as far as my eyes could tell. Even the more intensive parts of the map won't completely destroy the frame rate, and actually it stayed above 60 FPS on average pretty much all of the time. I'll say most of the time just in case there are some dips and drops, but performance will of course depend on what map you are playing. This got me wondering about the highest settings. How would the game run if we maxed out the RT render chunks distance? This is as simple as dragging the slider all the way up in the settings menu. This didn't actually have as much of an impact as I thought. I was expecting way worse. We're still getting at least 60 FPS a lot of the time here, so if you have an RTX card but it's part of a questionable PC, at least in terms of the CPU, but you love Minecraft and want to experience the visuals at their best, not to worry, you can, but what about AMD? The RX 6500 XT is best suited to PCIe 4 systems as we've covered before, but it will be running at PCIe 2.0 for this test, and it's not exactly known for its quality ray tracing capabilities at the best of times. It can do it though, it has the tech. In Minecraft, back at the default settings, fancy options with 8 chunks render distance and 1080p res of course, I mean it's better than I thought. Not ideal, as I'm sure you'll agree, and playing regular Minecraft with visual mods installed would make more sense instead if you want to improve the graphics a bit, but all hope is not lost. To improve things, we can drop the res to 720p native and either leave it at that or enable Radeon Super Resolution from within the Radeon software to make things look a little sharper. Doing this will boost our frame rate up to at least 30 FPS at the best of times, though drops are still to be expected of course. Based on what I saw before, this also got me wondering about maxing the game out with the 6500 XT. Surely performance won't be much worse here either. Well, yeah, if we turn the RT render distance up, then we are still getting near 30 FPS, but drops to the low 20s are definitely common. I think this is okay if you're taking it easy, wandering around building a few things, but it isn't ideal for most people, I'm sure. Still, the minimum suggested requirements aren't the worst I've ever seen stated, so there's that. At the opposite end of the spectrum, we can turn things down to their lowest, albeit with RT still enabled, by disabling the fancy graphics toggles. This doesn't make too much of a noticeable difference apart from the fact that the clouds have vanished of course, but our frame rate has increased ever so slightly. The 6500 XT and RTX 2060 are of course in two different leagues performance wise anyway, but I think it was interesting to see how each one did in Minecraft RTX when paired with an old quad-core i5 2400 and 8GB of RAM. I can't imagine many of you have a setup like this. It is quite mismatched, but as always, I hope you enjoyed this video nonetheless. If you did, be sure to leave a like on it down below, leave a dislike if you didn't, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and hopefully I'll see all of you in the next video.